Peter. My topic is going to be about minimum wage, and my claim is that minimum wage has a negative effect on the workforce. My first supporting claims is that minimum wage will cause the firms to have a different attitude towards hiring people. If say, my second claim is that it will cause the lower skilled and inexperienced workers to make it more difficult for them to find jobs and just get more experience. And my third claim is that minimum wage just doesn't really help. It just makes the, I guess, politicians, it just gets people to back them up, I guess. So my first claim is about how it affects the company's hiring policies. Say if they have a certain amount of money that they're willing to spend to hire people, and if the people, labor costs more money, they're gonna wanna hire less people, which causes them to wanna put out fewer jobs and hire less people. And for that, this causes the lower skilled and inexperienced workers to have more trouble getting hired and gaining that experience. And from I have a quote from PBS that says minimum wage affects the young people the most, and almost half of the minimum wage workers that are affected, they're unemployed, is under 25, and 19% of them are teens, which is 4.9% higher than the overall unemployment rate. This also affects the students that come just come straight out of college or drop out of college or high school. And my last point is that the minimum wage doesn't benefit, because if the cost increases of one thing, people are gonna buy less of it. And say, because from my experience, my friend's parents has a family restaurant, and they had to increase the minimum wage of the workers and cooks inside the restaurant, which caused them to increase the items of the menu by $1 and a bit more for each item. And the minimum wage also only benefits a third of the portion. For the OC Register, it reported that in 2006 that the minimum wage only benefits 605,000 OC workers, which is only a third of the workforce. So basically, the minimum wage doesn't help the workforce, it actually hurts the workforce. It only helps the politicians get the people to be on their side, and it just makes it harder for less than experienced workers to find jobs, and it just makes it a never-ending circle of they need experience to get a job, but they can't get the job to learn to get the experience. And that's why the minimum wage doesn't benefit the workforce. Yeah.
All right, Peter, you've got a couple of things that are working for you. The proposition is clearly stated. You've got a preview of the supporting points, although the phrasing of the supporting points, I think, is a little bit confusing at times. You also labeled those points pretty clearly when you got to them, at least the first and the third one. The second one, I think, gets buried, but I know that it's distinct from the other points because the other 2 points are labeled, so you want to be a little careful about that. I thought that your proof on the first point was underwhelming. There's not really much information there except for hypotheticals on that particular point. There was one statistic that you presented talking about the impact of the minimum wage on youth, and I guess that suggested that there's a higher unemployment rate, but the idea that that higher unemployment rate is primarily because of the minimum wage, because it affects primarily youth. I think that there's a couple of steps in your inferential process here that are going to have to be explained in a little bit more detail. That's problematic. The argument on the third point that suggests that it fails to benefit people, there's confusion here. When you say it doesn't really benefit that many people, and then you tell me in Orange County it benefits a third of the population that were in the workforce, that sounds like a pretty significant number of people that would be affected by this. The argument is that it's probably insufficient to alter their spending patterns, to lift them out of poverty, to increase consumer demand for things. I think those arguments need to be developed, but as it is, what you've got here just simply tells me that here's a group of people that are affected by the minimum wage, and it's not as small as you suggested as it was in the first point. So that seemed a little bit confusing. At the end of the speech, you've got a reasonable summary of the point that you're making, but your proof on all of those points, I think, is lacking a little bit. 2 suggestions for you on the presentations in the future. Try to avoid using the phone as the source of your notes. Usually read, where are you? You're back there. Reading from the phone while it's in your hand is always complicated. Just to give you an example, it's been a while, but my son-in-law tried to read his vows during the wedding from the phone, and he got lost several times, and as he's standing there, he says it out loud, "Worst idea ever." And I was wondering, are you talking about the daughter that I'm marrying, or are you talking about your speech? It's usually a bad idea, even though it seems like it's convenient. The second thing is you want to lose the gum while you're giving the speech because it's a little distracting and sometimes you mumble and don't articulate as clearly. All right, thank you.